Would you please stand?
Bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for your blessings upon our city, upon the city staff, and upon this commission. We pray for your guidance as we deliberate these important matters that are in front of us. And we ask that you look after our troops that are in harm's way as the world becomes less and less safe. And we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Diana Cook,
Present.
Miguel Coronado,
Present.
Cassandra Harvey, absent, Raj Mali,
Present.
Fabian Terciano, absent, Vice Chair Randy Hall,
Here.
Chairman James Vose.
Sir.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public business from the floor, since we only have staff here this evening, I believe. No public has arrived as yet, but if they do, I'll give them an opportunity to address the commission when the business is announced for their opportunity to speak. First order of business tonight is our consent calendar, approval of the minutes of regular meeting of October 20th, 2014. Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Second that. Thank you. Questions, comments, discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. Tonight we have two items of new business and one item of continued business. However, there are no action items this evening on our agenda. The first item is a presentation on Better Built Homes. Director of Development Services for the next 3 days. Mr. Neal, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm Robert Neal. I'm the Director of Public Services, and what the chairman is talking about is I'm going to retire here shortly. My last working day is actually Thursday, and
we're going to miss you, Mr. Neal.
I love this city, and I'm going to miss being part of all the neat things that are going on. And so it really is a pleasure for me to talk about a couple things tonight. And one of them is this Better Built Homes.
Very good.
And so, Commission Chairman, I'd like to tell you about. I want to show you this picture of this house that's one of the better built homes in all of America. Built right here in Lancaster. And why do I say that? It's because it has been acknowledged by the Residential Energy Services Network as the most energy efficient production built house in America this year. And it has a HERS rating of 42. And a lot of people don't understand what that is, but the U.S. Department of Energy establishes a standard for new homes that's 100. And if a house is built such that it's 30% more efficient than the standard, it has a rating of 70. If it's 30% less efficient, it has a rating of 130. So 42 is really phenomenal. Not only is it very energy efficient, it also produces, through solar panels, more electricity than it uses. It is water efficient. The average Lancaster home uses about an acre-foot of water a year. That's about 326,000 gallons a year. This home uses less than half of that. It captures the gray water from the interior. It has water-efficient landscaping that provides more water captured from the interior than the landscaping needs. So it's the kind of home that allows homeowners to have lower utility bills. It's better for the environment. It's a home that is attractive and intelligently built. I'd like to show you a little clip of what our mayor says about this home that was done at a press conference earlier this year, in February, in fact. So
There is nothing I am more excited about than this house. I've seen it from the inception at the boardroom to the fruition of it today. It had so many things come together. You had BYD in China come together with KB. They didn't speak the same language, but they had the same energy and the same goal, and that is to save our planet. This house can go a long ways to doing that. It is so absolutely incredible. You have a house that produces more energy than it uses. Think of There is nothing I am more excited about than this house. It's more energy than it uses. Think about that. It produces more energy than it uses. And it will charge your electric car. We couldn't even have conceived of that 3 years ago. And the reason I know that is because when I sat in the meeting and asked them if they could do it, they said there's no way to do it affordably. This is affordable. The people who buy that house are going to spend less a month than the person that buys the exact same house without all the improvements. I mean, how does that happen? You get all the improvements and you pay less. It's almost magical. But the thing that really blows me away about it is we are walking into a drought that isn't going to go away. It's going to go like this, but it's going to get worse and worse. And I think the water people will tell you that. There is no expectation of a long time improvement on that drought situation. That will be the death of California if we do not fix it. And KB Homes, along again with a foreign corporation, now with Australia, I'm going to digress. By coming together and creating this house, this could actually solve the water crisis of California. It's going to be a long-term fix, but it's going to require the Energy Commission, it's going to require the state to recognize we have to change business models. We have to change the business models of utilities to make this work. Think about it. We're going to use less water. You pay less money for water. Water companies go out of business because we solve the problem of the drought. There's so much complexity to this that it does require a partnership between local, state, and business in a way that we've never partnered before, because we don't have 10 years to fix it. We have to fix it now. And I cannot tell you what a thrill it has been to work with KB Homes. When I first got elected, I thought they were going to be the problem. It never occurred to me they would be the solution. Not only are they the solution to what we're attempting to do, they are a solution to what the world is attempting to do, and it's starting right there. And you're here. And as hard as that is to believe, that is how revolutionary that house is. And to be part of this is, it feels wonderful. And it should feel wonderful for you, too. And Tom?
I think the mayor was very eloquent about that. And it really kind of poses a situation of why don't we just mandate that kind of construction? And I used to think that was the best way, but I've learned a few things. Housing construction right now is still in a recession. We will probably build less houses this year than the last time I checked. We had, for this year, about 78 housing permits. So I'm not even sure we're going to make 200 this year. And when I talk to builders, there is a reluctance to a mandate, and they're just not as advanced maybe as KB in this arena, and there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of risk. They feel like the buyers of new homes haven't gotten to a point where they demand this product. Mortgage companies don't give value right now to the installation of these features that ultimately reduce the mortgage. And in general terms, there's a lack of infrastructure to support this kind of development at this point, meaning that we need the companies to be able to build cost-effective gray water systems. We need companies that can provide the services to do recycling and provide the products that are needed. So it's quite a problem, but the Planning Commission appointed a working group who met with representatives from the building industry, KB Homes. The Australian firm that the mayor was talking about, Nexus, was a party to it. And I think they came up and have arrived at what I'm going to call a brilliant solution, a very eloquent solution. And it's an incentive program that we call the Better Built Home, a program that I think will cause builders to want to build with these smart features that will attract the infrastructure needed to support this kind of industry, create customer appreciation, and will help transition our community so that those types of homes are what is the normal home to be built in Lancaster. And they've done it in a way that won't break the city's budget. So let me talk about some of the details. And what you see on that slide there is an evaluation sheet that has 3 categories: water, energy, and environment. And what a builder needs to do to participate in this program is accumulate 10 or more points from at least 2 categories. If he's able to do that, the city will then, what's being proposed is offer a 25% discount on impact fees, waive the backyard landscaping, and also provide access to recycled water for the builder. That last one is actually could be very valuable to a builder, particularly in a drought, when water purveyors sometimes cut off construction water. It would allow the builder to continue. I would estimate conservatively the value of these incentives to be between $10,000 and $15,000. The kind of offset needed for a builder to take advantage of this program and use it as a marketing tool to attract home buyers and to offset the cost, to get familiar with it, to find ways to do it more efficiently and smarter, which our builders are good at doing. So I'm going to just kind of walk through just some of those items. Under water conservation, points are given for not using grass. Most water is our residents use is used on the exterior for landscaping, so this is just a smart thing to do. This home here is in Lancaster as well. It's at the Gibraltar Track. Also on the interior, to provide water sense fixtures that saves water in a lot of different ways: showers, faucets, sinks, water closets, those kinds of things. This slide talks about an incentive for the gray water system, and we've been working with Nexus. Nexus has won awards. They were first place in the coolest product at the 2014 Southern California Building Industry Trade Show. They were also best of show at the Green Build International Trade Show in New Orleans. They have a product that is able to capture gray water, which is the water from sinks and showers, and but not the black water, and treat it and provide water for landscaping that is very very clean and very safe. And as I said earlier, enough of it to water efficient landscaping so that there is no additional water needed for that. What goes along with this is subsurface irrigation, which is just a natural for this type of gray water system. And that's actually what was used in that home that we saw at the beginning. Talking about energy, points are given for going over and above our 1 kilowatt per home standard. Imagine the scenario that homes would put additional power on their roofs that help provide energy into their neighborhoods. Power that I could envision that our community choice aggregation program will purchase from them. So it will be a good deal for everybody. Also, there are a number of features that are listed that happen inside the home. Energy Star products, home energy storage systems, vehicle charging stations, LED lighting. I can envision a day when shoppers will look at the rating of homes in the process of selecting to buy one, because it is more valuable to have a home that has these energy features that reduce costs and are just smarter design. Lastly, kind of our catch-all category is environment, and in this category we put smog eating tile, and smog eating tile captures pollution that comes from cars, on surfaces that are treated with titanium oxide. And when the UV light strikes it, it breaks down mono-nitrogen oxides found in vehicle exhaust, and then when it rains, it washes off the roof, so it cleans the air. It's actually one of the products we saw on our Home for the Future a couple of years ago, and so we've incentivized that, as well as construction waste recycling, which is a smart thing to do, and we'd like to encourage the development of that kind of infrastructure so that some point here in the future we'd have the infrastructure, and we've created an environment where builders are comfortable and familiar with energy, water saving, environmentally smart products, and incorporating them in their home building, that this program that starts off as an incentive could be just the standard for the way we build. So it's envisioned as a 2-year program that provides incentives for builders to help our community have better built homes. With that, I'd like to stop and answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Appreciate your comments, and the Commission appreciates the opportunity you gave us to work together with you, Vice Chair Hall and Mr. Traciano and Mr. Malley participated, I understand, and we received periodic reports from them as well. There may be some questions from members, and it's quite exciting, that's for sure.
I think it's a good thing.
Anyone?
I would like to know, how do we educate the mortgage industry utilizing appraisers to, instead of give value to a house per square foot, but what's contained in that house per that square foot. So making it more equity or higher value when you have incentivized and done all these things to your home or purchasing a new home.
That's a really good question, Commissioner Cook. I believe the mortgage industry is more of an industry that looks back and sees how things have been done, and less of an industry that looks forward. In parts of the country, there's a beginning of a recognition of the value of these types of features. And there's a formation of something known as energy mortgages, where there's added value that's put into the value of home because of features like it. To my knowledge, it really hasn't arrived here in the Antelope Valley, but as we go about this, I think as buyers become more aware, as builders become more aware, it's much more likely that we will see that industry catch up.
Mr. Neal, you had said it was a 2-year program. What's after that?
Well, I think it'll be for the Planning Commission and City Council to determine, but if builders take advantage of it, what we saw with the Home of the Future, we saw KB, who at first was very reluctant to put solar as a standard in their building, and we had to incentivize that. Quite honestly, we paid for the solar panels and some of the features in those homes, but as they started to put those in, they got smart about it and they found that there was a market for it. They found cheaper ways to do it, and I believe those kinds of things will happen with this kind of program. And so in 2 years, Mr. Hall, I'm hoping what happens here in Lancaster is everyone saying, we just need to build all homes like this.
It says here in the Better Built Home program that the program is entirely voluntary for the builders. The mayor gave me a talking to when I presented this program, and he said he wanted mandatory requirements. And I was wondering, since the incentives are $10,000 to $15,000, what would it hurt to make this mandatory?
The feedback we had gotten from even KB Homes was just a reluctance about imposing new mandates. So I think we will find a kickback from or just a reluctance from the building industry to really build here. We're in a marketplace where builders can choose to build outside the city boundaries and still serve a lot of the same people. So I'm not sure. I honestly, maybe that's the way we do it. But based on the feedback I had received, I think this is the most easy one for that industry to accept, and they're a struggling industry.
Well, my fear in not making it mandatory is it's going to be a hard sell at the counter when the developer comes in, because he's going to have his budgeting, he's going to have everything figured out, he's going to then lay it out, and then you're going to walk up and say, have you heard of this? And then he's going to have to go back and redo everything to try to figure out what, like Tom DePrima says, he's going to have to get his pencil out and see if it pencils. But if we had this as mandatory in the beginning, and they saw the savings, maybe they would choose to build here instead of out of the area.
That's a good point. And Tom incorporates a lot of these features and options into his home already. KB has come a long way. It's other builders that haven't been building in a while because of the recession, and this is all new to the building industry. Has indicated to me that the building industry rep has indicated to me, there is other builders besides KB, and they're concerned about mandates that require this. On the opposite side, I really do think that competition will drive people to use this program. If you are buying a new home and you have an option and it's the same price and you get a house with energy-saving features or water-conserving features, I think you're going to be more competitive than a regular house that has a higher HERS index, that costs more to operate. So I do believe builders will take it. This program really gives builders options. They can pick and choose what they want to do and still qualify for the program.
So we've been in a building slump for the last few years. I'm going to tax your prognostication abilities here and tell me when you think that it will return, and when it does return, what would it be like? Would it be higher density or?
I know what I'd like it to be like. I've been the city's building official for well over a decade, and you know, that industry's hard to predict. I would have hoped that the Antelope Valley would have recovered sooner than now. Usually what happens is the prices in the surrounding areas goes up, like the areas in Santa Clarita start to go up. More and more people seek more affordable homes, and they move further out, and that's the Antelope Valley. Prices are going up in those other areas, and at some point I do expect the building industry to return. How fast will it grow? There's been a pent-up demand because there hasn't been construction. Tom DePrima would tell you, for instance, that construction of houses has been as lowest as it has since World War II. And our city's population continues to grow, so there's a need. I believe that the need for housing is changing, that there is definitely a market for more urban, mixed-use kinds of development as opposed to suburban or tract-type houses. And it'll be interesting to see what that kind of mix turns out to be in the future.
Mr. Neal, it was a pleasure to work with you on this program, and congratulations on your upcoming retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind,
Sure.
and I'm not sure I heard you correctly talking about construction water. I've noticed some projects out on the far west side. I'm assuming they're industrial level solar projects accessing purple pipe water from hydrants just adjacent to Costco and hauling it some miles west. Lots of 4,000-gallon tank trucks heading that way.
Right.
I wonder if that's I don't believe in our jurisdiction, but in other jurisdictions, some sort of a requirement, or is it a voluntary method of keeping dust control down and the cost of water probably zero?
My understanding is we are encouraging our solar developers to use recycled water. Cost-wise, much cheaper for a developer who can tie into a nearer, closer potable water system than the recycled water system, because the recycled water system is really built in the center of our city. It runs down Division, and it can be a long ways away, and hauling water is expensive. This last year, Waterworks had indicated to me that there was a time when the drought was bad enough that they were considering stopping all construction. I'm not sure it actually really reached that stage for very long with those folks.
Came pretty close.
Yeah, it did. And at that time, some contractors had talked to me about accessing recycled water for dust control and in order to continue construction.
So they're accessing the recycled water out of the city system. I didn't notice any meters. Maybe there's a...
We provide them with construction temporary meters. They're supposed to have meters.
So, is there, in the proposed Better Built Homes program, is there an incentivization for using recycled water for grading and dust control?
It's provided as one of the incentives for the program. If you're a participant, we will provide you an access point in recycled water at no charge.
So, at no charge. And I don't know how you offset that cost at, $3.50 a gallon for diesel per 5 miles, I guess, or thereabouts, depending on the quality of the engine and the weight of the vehicle, plus the potential damage it does to our
Roads.
streets and highways.
That's a struggle. It absolutely is.
Yeah. I'm not sure I agree with folks that want to impose these requirements as an absolute requirement as opposed to a voluntary program. We've said many times in this commission that we're not regulators, but we seem to be doing it in nearly every meeting, and sometimes it's pretty hard to swallow the regulations that we're almost obliged to impose on folks. I'm glad to see this program as a voluntary one.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Cook.
I kind of disagree. I would like to see these things become mandated, because if we don't, we'll never create a new standard. How are we ever going to get there if we don't begin somewhere? And I just think it's more responsible for our future. Just my thoughts.
What year was income tax, national income tax, imposed on this country?
1913.
13, was it? And then there was Social Security at a certain level, guaranteed. At least that's what I read in the history books. I don't remember what the numbers were, but I certainly remember the guarantee. 1%, was it?
1%.
And look where we are today. So I just caution ourselves on imposing absolute conditions on folks. We do it all the time. Government loves to do it, even though sometimes they don't recognize they're doing it.
Sir.
That's why we're appointed, not elected. Thank you again, Mr. Neal. Anyone else?
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
Really appreciate your presentation this evening. Thank you again.
Thank you.
As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, there's always an opportunity for public business from the floor, and we had no member of the public here present when we started the meeting. However, there is a member now, and I just would announce, as we typically do, that members of the public have an opportunity to speak to the commission on any item before the commission, and we allow those speakers 3 minutes to address us. There are cards at the back and adjacent to our assistant city attorney as well, and we'd ask you, if you'd like to speak to us, to please fill out one of those speakers cards, and we'll be happy to call on you when the item is presented. I'm not sure if you have any comments, sir, on this particular item, but all right. Thank you. The next item we have is Medical Main Street. Deputy City Manager is part of the presenters tonight, or at least that's what's highlighted on my agenda, as well as Mr. Neal. So who's going to be up? Maybe it's the City Manager.
Okay, good.
We've got all the brass here tonight. I tell you, we haven't had this much excitement and this many individuals from our city staff here at one time. I can't recall when.
Well, it's nice to have the city manager and deputy city manager here. Again, it's a privilege to talk to this commission. You know, as mentioned, I'm retiring. My first order of business is actually to take care of my health. And I'm really excited about this partnership that we're talking about, because what it means is better care and better services for our community, healthier lifestyles, and there's a great deal of opportunity. We're going to describe to you tonight the city manager, myself, the planning director, and one of our planners are going to describe to you tonight a partnership that involves a capital program that will help form a medical business park, I'm going to call it, construct a new street network that involves complete streets. It will create a campus-like feel. It will have a community outreach component where we're going to see the medical industry and AV Hospital partner with various people and groups in our community. I think we're going to see a medical magnet school, more involvement in wellness homes, some really good things. And lastly, there's a branding and marketing campaign that's associated so that our community is aware of some of the amazing things that are happening in the medical profession that we can avail ourselves to. So, but first, I'm going to need to talk about the challenge that our community faces. We are, as a community, in a health crisis. We lead the county in the highest death rates from diabetes, heart disease, suicides, and vehicle accidents. We also lead the county in obesity, hypertension, depression, emphysema, OCPD. We need to do some things better, and so we have a vision to be a community that's healthy and sustainable, and we see it being worked out through the medical community in a really interesting partnership. Quite honestly, a partnership that that I've never seen at this city before, and I've worked here for 25 years. I think working together, we're going to do a much better job for our community than we can do apart. So this slide here shows some pictures of things that we kind of envision the medical Main Street to look like. Instead of the hospital being a remote place that you go when you're sick or have an emergency, we envision it as a public place, a civic center where healthy living is the norm, a place where people work, live, learn, and play. So we're going to give you a lot more details about this. I'm going to turn this part over to Chris Ani, who's going to tell you a little bit more.
Thank you, Robert.
Welcome, Chris.
Okay, so the Medical Main Street concept focuses on the Antelope Valley Hospital and the surrounding area, roughly bounded to the east by 12th Street West, to the north by Avenue J, to the west by 20th Street West, running south along the Antelope Valley Freeway to the High Desert Medical Group. And this area has a huge advantage for future development with the significant amount of undeveloped parcels within this boundary. And so we also see this area as becoming a regional economic engine for jobs. And also as a result of the high concentration of medical uses that are forming around the hospital, there's really no doubt that this area is going to continue to grow. The question is how and pretty much at what quality. And what we know we don't want is we don't want any more sprawl. We don't want any more buildings kind of built in isolation, plopped on a site, without any kind of rhyme or reason of how it connects to the surrounding area. So basically what we see this as developing as a comfortable main street with plazas and courtyards and really connecting the inside of the buildings to the outside of the building. Because again, this is an area of health and well-being, somewhere where you want to be rather than have to be. And this slide represents the former we're looking at. And basically it's a proposed hospital in a mixed-use setting. So you can envision, the Starbucks or a coffee shop or an assisted living facility. Basically what you would see in a Main Street type setting, but with maybe a medical focus. So with this, we have a great opportunity to alter what is pretty much a collection of individual, isolated medical uses that merely share a boundary into a truly dynamic setting and with distinct character. Because again, this is an area where we see people coming here and really feeling that this is a special place, not just an institution. And next, Robert will continue talking more about the street networks. Thanks, Robert.
Because it's streets, it's public works. That's me. We're proposing a new street network through this area. You see it highlighted in red. The idea is to orient development inward as opposed to the arterial streets. We're proposing to do this to help foster a more campus-like feel, to encourage the development of the interior property. And we're looking at right-of-ways, not just right-of-ways being developed for people and not just for cars, so that in the right-of-ways we'd see bike lanes, walking paths, transit. I want to focus on one of the areas that we're looking at, which is emergency vehicle access. The way it exists right now into this area, it's just dangerous. There's high volumes of traffic, and that is the primary access to the emergency room. What we're looking for is to create a street pattern that allows alternative ways, that takes some of the traffic load off of the arterials, that gives emergency vehicles better access. The hospital district services the hospital district is the only public hospital in the Antelope Valley. It serves a big area from Acton north to nearly Ridgecrest. And so if someone has an accident in Mojave or Acton, they're brought to this hospital. And so we're proposing to study access. We have an opportunity. We're working with Caltrans right now on interchanges and how we can provide better access and better branding of this area so that it is safer and much more readily accessible. I have a picture here of the boulevard. And the reason I do is because we see the medical Main Street concept very similar to what's happened on the boulevard. The first step and the key to this is the development of a plan. And this is where I think the Planning Commission will play a very important role. With a plan, I think we will be able to get funding that show if we have a vision that's been put together and a good plan that will allow us to create the infrastructure that will attract and enhance business development and investment. That's what's happened on the boulevard. Lastly, I see it being operated as a community asset. To go a little bit more into this partnership, our planning director.
Thank you, Robert. And we do see a lot of opportunities that can come out of this that actually go beyond simply what happens on the site. We see this as a real way to connect much closer the healthcare district with the communities that it serves. There's no reason that an area of health and healing and wellness shouldn't have a positive influence on the area around it. And we think that that can actually happen. And the way that we want to encourage that to happen is to merge what the city does well, public improvements, connectivity, making better access, and with what and merge that with what the healthcare district does well. Now, we both are really good at partnerships. We're good at partnerships in different areas, and we think that if we can bring that together, that it's going to do very, very wonderful things for our community and for our region. We only have to look at what the city has been able to do so far in its partnerships, for example, with the school districts on its Safe Routes to School efforts. We can look at what's happened with the city's partnerships with alternative energy companies and alternative energy providers. You've already seen some of what has happened because of our partnership with the building industry in the previous presentation. But we also have a healthcare district that is very, very good at this. Look at what they've done bringing in the City of Hope and what they've done with their recently announced partnership with USC, which is very, very cutting-edge types of things. So we see possibilities such as a medical magnet school, perhaps at Sunnydale, which is near to where their campus is located. And think of the possibility. Think of a hospital looking to attract its top talent who would be able to say to prospective nurses or people coming out of medical school and saying, we'll be able to provide you some assistance in finding housing in the immediate area, and your children can attend a school that's right near where you work. And by the way, we're going to provide health care in a way that allows for child care facilities on the site. So if your child is sick, we'll have sick child health care or daycare on campus, and that way you don't have to miss work. These are very, very important things to the medical community because of the way that they work and the hours that they work and the shifts that they undertake. And we think that if we combine the partnership ability of both of our organizations, this is a very, very doable thing. When we talked with the healthcare district, one of the things that I found personally very interesting was this idea that they're not actually competing with the hospital in Palmdale. They see their competition as the facilities that are in Los Angeles. So what they are looking towards, and what I think we want to look towards, is this becoming the primary choice for people that are in this area. That you now have a choice that says you don't have to go into Los Angeles necessarily to get the kind of health care that you want to find. We find Kaiser already working along this line on their project. We think our Antelope Valley Healthcare District can do the very, very same thing. Close to home, good care, the ability to not have to make difficult family decisions that are often necessitated when health care has to be obtained many, many miles away. And we think that we have very, very good outreach efforts. We're already looking at what it's going to take to do the planning effort for this area. And actually, just today, we started looking into the possibilities of where funding might come to help fund some of this planning effort, which the Planning Commission is going to have a major role in helping to shape and oversee. So as we look at all of this together, it's really the opportunity for the city and the healthcare district, two public entities with different missions, to nonetheless work together and create something that's very, very good for our community and our region. But there are next steps, and there's a way to go forward on this. And Jason Cottle, our Deputy City Manager, it's going to be Mark? Wow. At first I thought you'd get Jason. You'll actually get Mark. And he loves to talk about this part.
That's why I'm here, because I love to talk
Welcome,
about
Mr. City Manager. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to see you guys. This is the wet blanket part of the presentation, because it's going to cost money, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of effort. But this is why it's worth it. Well, first off, an idea without implementation is worthless. So it's a great idea, but it's going to have to happen. Why does it have to happen? Development's going to happen anyway. Think back, some of you, Mr. Vos, are old enough to remember the areas.
Quit reminding me how old I am.
I was there too.
Yep.
What this hospital looked like in that area in the 1960s. Okay, it's totally different now than it was then, but without planning, it turned out what it is. It's probably the hardest emergency room to get to of any place I've ever been, to even figure it out, unless you've been there before. That's not their fault. They have a great, amazing administration over there, but we need to change that. So first off, we need to look at what the hospital is. It's an asset that we undervalue. Mr. Vos has been used those services, not of his own volition, but they saved his life. They saved my dad's life. This is an asset to this community that does amazing work. But what we haven't done is we haven't made it the economic engine it could be. Think for a second what Brian said and what Robert said. There's probably more than 500,000 people that's their primary hospital. 500,000 people. The thousands of people that are employed there, they drive our economy in a lot of ways. And when you look at the map that Chris showed, 50% of that property is vacant. This is a tremendous opportunity for the Planning Commission. It's what economic development looks like in the future. It's not incentives and drawing new business. It's looking at what your strengths are and maximizing those. And the City of Lancaster has a tremendous strength right here. And we're going to ask the Planning Commission to do the heavy lifting at the beginning. It's going to take money, as Brian said. We're going to, I'm used to Brian sitting over there, so I keep looking at Michelle and surprised every time I look. We're going to find the money to engage the right people with staff to start this process. But we're really going to need the Planning Commission to put a lot of emphasis and focus on it. I look at this as one of the primary projects we're working on next year. So we hope that you share the excitement that we do and see the possibilities of this and see that we can take what we already have and leverage it into so much more. So any of us are available for your questions.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your comments. And
Even the old comment?
pardon?
Even the comment about being old?
Yeah, sure. I'm used to it. But you're absolutely correct. We've lived in this valley a long time, and some of the criticism about the healthcare district certainly is unfounded. As a citizen who's availed themselves of the opportunity, some not to my immediate choosing. However, I must say the care that I've received personally and others that I know has just been extraordinary there. And they did, in fact, save my life. They certainly did, in fact, save your dad's life. I'm grateful for my life, and I'm certainly grateful for your dad as well. At any rate, a member of our commission has been involved with the healthcare district for a long time and knows the folks there and works with them very regularly. I think it goes without saying this commission is up to the challenge. We don't have a lot of money, but we have a great amount of time to devote to this. Hopefully, the healthcare district will have an opportunity to share in some of those costs and expenses. When I had the opportunity to attend their board meeting recently with Mr. Neal, and they seem very excited about the opportunity. So from their leadership, at least, it would appear that they are, and their senior staff as well. So we look forward to the challenge. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say. No?
I'm I'm already into the planning. The 15th Street West roundabout, will that be part of the street planning that's going to be heading, I saw the pretty picture that we had up there, and it looked like it was 15th Street West.
Right, the hospital faces on 15th Street West. I think we will look at roundabouts as an opportunity to slow down traffic on 15th Street West in front of that hospital, and to enable the campus feel that we're looking at. The roundabouts that are planned right now are, however, are 15th Street West at Lancaster Boulevard and 15th Street East and Lancaster Boulevard. So it does connect to that same corridor. It really makes sense to make that corridor one that operates with roundabouts. And
I was thinking of the one at Lancaster Boulevard is going to be planned with that in mind down.
Yes, absolutely.
They've, I know that Michelle and Robert have already been in conversations with the hospital on that to make sure that it works with them, fire department, et cetera.
Yes.
And Kaiser's building looks really nice out there. Is this going to be, Kaiser's going to be like another one, another medical Main Street?
Kaiser's within this same shed area, I believe, right?
Yeah, Kaiser, they have certain services and so forth that they share with the healthcare district, but their campus itself, they are looking at designing it and planning it under these same sorts of principles. It's amazing to look at the shift in the healthcare industry to one of prevention and wellness and trying to make it a part of your normal life rather than the place that you avoid until you're deathly ill. And that's, I think, a positive step forward. But it also means being more open to the community and being involved in things even when you don't immediately need the medical care.
Is there any talk to Kaiser about trying to make sure that their roads are similar to how we're going to be planning ours for around the medical center?
That will definitely be part of this because there's the focused area that Chris showed, and then there's going to be how that focused area interacts with the others, too. Kaiser's a good example. They have a campus feel they get to start. I think it was Jason or Chris that brought up the point that if you look at what's been invested in the current health district campus, amazing City of Hope facility, woman and I think it's an infant pavilion, but they don't have the feel of being connected. Okay? Well, right now, if someone came to us and said, we want to build a rehab center, which I'm told is something that's needed in the Valley, we in the hospital would say, wow, that's great, go wherever you want. That's not what people want to hear. They want to say, we know that we have a need for a rehab center. This is where we anticipate those kind of services, this kind of support. This is how you interact with the other people. And then instead of waiting for someone to come to you, you can go to the 4 or 5 best rehab centers in the country and say, we want you, we're going to pick who's right. We use the example, it's hunting versus fishing. If you have a plan, you can then go out and get the right partners to support you. And I think that's really, to me, the biggest difference is that this will allow us to have a master plan and then go out and partner with those people to fill those pieces in. I think that this is going to be one of those things that hopefully we're all going to look back at in 5 years and say, wow, that was really important and that really made a difference. And it's a growing industry, too. That's the other thing. Healthcare is an absolutely growing industry, so we need to do the right planning for it.
It is exciting. Thank you.
Well, these are guys, it was Robert and Ryan were the impetus to start with, and believe it or not, this started with a discussion with the hospital about a bus stop, and this is what it grew to.
It's amazing.
Just
amazing.
Yeah, we just can't leave well enough alone,
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation tonight.
These guys.
All right, anything further from the members? Nope. Just an editorial comment. I noticed from a recent presentation of the City Council that there had to be some members had to recuse themselves that was related to a similar presentation, and I wonder how that will impact this commission potentially and the decisions and recommendations we might make in the future. Now, I'm not asking for a legal opinion, just an observation. It probably affects members of this commission as well who may have business interests in very nearby or homes or whatever the case might be. So we just need to be aware of that, I guess. So, wonder how you're not directly employed. You're independent, right?
I'm very independent.
Well, yeah, we already knew that. But. All right. So, the last item of business is an update on temporary promotional signs. This is a continued item. Mr. Ludicky?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we don't really have a lot of new material to present to you tonight. In fact, I would say we have absolutely no new material, but wanted to give you a little bit of a rundown on where we're looking at going with this. And if you or any member of the commission have a concern with it, we'd like to know it at this point. So there was a very good comment that was made during the last hearing or during the last meeting that I believe came from Commissioner Cook, and it had to do with the idea that some temporary signs are designed to attract attention and some temporary signs are really designed to convey information. And with that kind of as a starting point, what we're doing internally is we're starting to look at, as we come up with this sort of menu of choices and how many you get and what can you do, we'd really like to make sure that we sort of allow people to have like one of each of those kinds of things rather than weighting it all one way or the other. We're also trying to take a really close look, and I think this has also been brought up by the Commission. There are obviously temporary signs that are designed to be there for a while, if you might, for lack of a better way of putting it, and some that, particularly given our climate, probably won't be there for, at least in very good repair, for very long, and trying to figure out how we can best address those kinds of time limits and other approaches. We have had some discussions on some recommendations. I'm not really prepared to discuss those completely with you, but we'd like to have a chance to go through kind of with those principles that I've outlined and bring back to you some areas for thought. And as a part of that, I know that at this point in time, there was only, I think, inflatable signs was the only one that we actually said we absolutely wouldn't allow. But I think as we go through this and think about it a little more, as a staff, we're going to ask you to take another look at that and see whether you, in fact, want to keep all of those remaining 6 or so on the list, or maybe, as a result of some refinements, trim them down a little further.
So, Brian, if it's the inflatable Pillsbury Doughboy, would it be giving information or an attractive, I won't call it a nuisance? But
well, since inflatable ones aren't permitted, I don't really have to define that. But
well, then the Michelin tire guy.
As a trademark,
I'm more visual than descriptive.
I think things that are designed to catch your eye are more in the category of attention getting.
Even though they may have a message.
They may have a message, but things that I have a professor in college who he actually used this term to describe architects, but I'll use it. If something is bigger than life and two-dimensional, then you know, it's probably there to attract your attention. But I think we can agree there are certain types of temporary signage that are much more designed to convey information than simply attract your attention.
So in your opinion, an inflatable visual is a temporary sign, potentially.
An inflatable
Visual, something that you can see and inflates.
Yes.
Trying to broaden the description rather than narrow it. Or is it your intent to narrow it?
Well, let's see. We've already said we won't use inflatables. At least that was the original consensus.
However, they do attract attention and
Yes, they do.
deliver a message.
Yes, they do. So,
Something to think about. Personally, I don't care for them, but others may. And we certainly have seen them on businesses. Company logos, for instance, that are inflatable for a period of time for some celebration or event or whatever the case might be. So I think we have to be careful how we address that, or those, I should say. Maybe.
yeah, I would agree.
Maybe time limits.
Would the Goodyear blimp can be considered an inflatable?
Yes, that's certainly inflatable.
So maybe we have two categories of inflatable, that one that sits in the back of the truck bed that flops around with a fan, and the other kind that's fully blown up and doesn't flop around.
I can see this is going to be a lot of fun. You're serious, though. I know you are.
No.
It has a level of certain levity, so, yes, but, I mean, these kinds of things exist in our community and in the marketplace. By the way, did you folks ever have the opportunity to access one of the major sign distribution folks, like D-Sign, DWE?
We have done a little bit of research into those, and it is amazing what you can obtain.
Yes, certainly is. Goes back to my concern about regulation as opposed to, anyway, start regulating and you end up limiting yourself sometimes. So what would you like to hear from us tonight, Mr. Ludicky?
If there's a strenuous objection to us attempting to go along that path, at least to bring you back some things to think about and some potential recommendations.
One from column A and one from column B.
Yeah, or maybe column C at the rate we're going to.
Possibly. And how long are we going to work on this?
Till we have a nice, reasonable, sensible sign ordinance.
So for years.
I don't remember reasonable. I remember sensible, however. Do you remember that? Sensible?
Yes, sensible.
Yeah. Then you've defined sensible, right?
No, you're defining it as you go through your effort.
Okay. Great. All right.
The body of your work will be considered sensible.
All right. More importantly, though, are we going to have a pre-retirement or retirement celebration for Mr. Neal's going away? Has that been planned?
Well, Mr. Neal was fortunate enough to be feted last Thursday evening at the University of the Antelope Valley's ballroom facilities. He and his lovely wife and members of his family, I think, enjoyed it, although I'll let him speak to it.
Chairman Wills, I was so honored. I have, and honestly, I am just have been privileged to have worked with the city for 25 years, and a lot of folks from the community came out, and it just was overwhelming. So
It's been our privilege to work with you some of those 25 years. And we appreciate your service and certainly your coordination of the activities that affect what we do and what goes on behind the scenes in your shop. We all benefit from, that's for sure. Thank you. All right then, Mr. Ludicky, Director's announcements.
The one thing that I did want to make the commission aware of, you had the presentation on the Better Built Home earlier. That is scheduled to go to the City Council in December.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? That it? That's it?
That is my only announcement.
All right, thank you. Commission, anything any member wishes to bring forward?
I just wanted to personally thank you, Mr. Neal, for all the hard work for the city of Lancaster, and you have done wonderful things. And anytime I came up for help, you just went out of your way. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Molly. So this is an opportunity for public business from the floor. If an individual wishes to address us this evening on any subject, we'll be happy to listen to you for 3 minutes. However, we can take no action on what you may want to present. So, member of the public, do you have anything you'd like to address us on? All right, then. We stand adjourned to the meeting, to our special meeting for agenda review on Monday, December 8th at 5:30 p.m. here in the Public Safety Conference Room at City Hall. Thank you all.